Outputting our coverage. It's what we do. That's all we do. Every Thursday at 5:30. College football. College football. Mountain West Conference. Doesn't matter. SEC is all that matters. Nick Saban is crazy. Yeah. And that's all. Let's start the show.
And here we are on Outputting Our Coverage. Coming up on week 2 of the college football season. Feels good to say we've seen some actual football now. We have things to talk about besides conjecture and preview magazines and heights and weights and returning starters. Feels good. Feels very good.
We're about to go into football overload. We've got NCAA that's already kicked off. We've got NFL kicking off tomorrow.
High school started up.
It's absolutely amazing. We got football every day.
Had a lot going on. I watched a lot of football this weekend. I kind of feel like I needed a day or two to get my bearings again, but once Thursday rolls around, we're going to need another fix.
And a quick shout out to the 5A Hartselle Tigers, who started their season off by beating the 6A Hillcrest Trojans or Patriots, something like that. They beat them down pretty good.
Not much of a drop-off for Hartselle, I guess. I heard Decatur won last week as well.
They did with 12 turnovers.
Just for them? Or
just for them. Two teams? Decatur had 12 turnovers.
How is that possible to still win?
They were down 13-0, and then they started to get into a little bit of a groove in the second half and won 21-13.
Wow. That was against Athens.
Against Athens.
Yeah, so do they still play Austin toward the beginning of the season?
They actually play them this week.
Okay.
It's the second week.
That sucks. They should really play them at the end of the season.
It should always be the last game.
What a disaster. Ever since we left that school, things have just gone downhill, David.
They miss us too badly.
That's how it goes. Speaking of downhill, it's time for us to introduce a new segment here on Outputting Our Coverage. We've been teasing this for a couple of weeks. Of course, it's called Good Call, Bad Call, where David and I put ourselves on the line each week with outlandish predictions of glory and defeat, and we had some pretty good ones this week. Do you want to start off with your good call or your bad call?
I think I want to start off with my bad call.
Okay, get it out of the way first.
The worst call I've made this year to date, and hopefully that I will ever make ever again, was picking Navy to upset Notre Dame in Dublin, Ireland. I thought, we've got some servicemen. They're used to waking up early. They're not afraid to travel. They'll be okay doing that. I thought Notre Dame having suspended a couple players would have mattered. None of that mattered at all because Notre Dame came out and just stomped on Navy 50-10.
See, the key fact that you forgot about was that Notre Dame's entire team was actually replaced by soccer hooligans.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes all the difference in the world.
You can't stop the rushing attack of a
now,
soccer
since
hooligan.
we were playing football in Europe, were they actually playing soccer?
It was very confusing. It was early, 9 a.m., you have a few drinks the night before. You're not sure when you wake up what you're seeing. So it may very well have been soccer.
What are you kidding? They're having a couple of drinks before they go to the game.
Yeah, who knows what actually happened there. I do know that Notre Dame won by about 50 points.
It was 50-10. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
Unfortunately, now for the next couple of weeks, we're going to have to hear about how Notre Dame is back until they lose to somebody. Maybe it'll be Purdue this week. Probably not.
Hopefully it'll be Purdue. Oh, come on, Boilermakers.
It's going to happen sooner rather than later. I know we've talked about on this show how tough Notre Dame's schedule is this year. They do have a doozy. I think they play USC fairly early in the season, so that'll probably calm things down a little bit.
I sure hope so.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go with my good call first, just to bring it a little bit more positive, and that's the Tennessee Volunteers. We kind of differed on this pick last week. You went with NC State. I went with Tennessee. I don't feel like I should take too much credit for this because it was like a cautiously optimistic pick. I said that they needed to get a run game going. Turns out that wasn't such a big deal. Tyler Bray actually looked decent, so maybe this is actually a bad call on my part because I've been harping on Tyler Bray for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean they look like they've got the big play going. Outside of the big play, they didn't do a whole lot, but if you've got that big play potential, that's a dangerous thing. All you need is 3 or 4 good plays if your defense can hold out, and they definitely got that.
Yeah, so Tennessee looked like a team that's willing to stretch the field a little bit. Junior college transfer Cordero Patterson, a wide receiver for them, definitely making Volunteers fans forget about Derek Rogers pretty quickly. He looks like he's going to be a stud, so maybe Tennessee things are looking up a little bit for them. I don't know.
Got to revisit my predictions for Tennessee.
Yeah, we may have to get some white out or something. Let's see what we got to change there.
So to balance things out, what was your bad call?
My bad call was Pitt. I picked them last week to win the Big East, which, to be fair, winning the Big East, they could still do it.
Could still happen.
And it wouldn't really be that much of an accomplishment, but they also lost to Youngstown State.
Who are the Penguins, I believe.
The Penguins. A former coaching staff of Jim Tressel, by the way, before he went to Ohio State. So maybe all the players got tatted up and felt really, really confident before the game. I don't know.
Still
embarrassing.
That was pretty bad.
Not as embarrassing as Penn State losing to Ohio, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Youngstown State, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
When you got beat by Penguins.
That is pretty bad.
It's not even cold.
That's pretty bad. But I just want to say, it's the Big East.
So it is the Big East.
I'll get that upset with me.
It's the Big East. I'd say my good call was probably the Auburn secondary, and really, in general, just the Auburn defense.
You were sort of right.
They did not look very good. The worst thing, though, was Auburn's tackling. It
was not good. You know what? Let's take a quick break from this. We got to talk about the Auburn's upcoming game. We'll do a recap of Auburn and Clemson. We'll talk about what happened in the Alabama-Michigan massacre that occurred this past weekend. We'll talk about those on the other sides here. So stay tuned on Outputting Our Coverage.
It's time for SEC Preview. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, 12 can't count. SEC, college football robber barons. SEC, yeah, they're big, they're fast, they're strong. And Missouri and Texas A&M as well. Yeah, SEC Preview. Here we go.
All right, we're back here on Outputting Our Coverage. As promised, we're going to talk about Auburn and Alabama. Since Alabama doesn't really have much of a game coming up this week against Western Kentucky, it's pretty much an automatic win for them. Let's at least recap what happened for them this past week in the Jerry Dome. I did not get a chance to watch the game. I was in Atlanta, for the Auburn-Clemson game. But my man David had a chance to watch it on the television. What were your thoughts?
It was just utter domination from the beginning. The offensive line for Alabama just absolutely had their way. Eddie Lacy was a little banged up. So T.J. Yeldon, who we actually previewed on this show and thought could do some big things for Alabama, definitely did. 111 yards on 11 carries.
That's pretty impressive.
It was really a great game, but you got to give credit to the offensive line just blowing out some holes there. A.J. McCarron looked okay, but the defense just absolutely terrorized Michigan. They forced a couple turnovers, 3 interceptions. Denard Robinson just kept leaving the game. He couldn't stay healthy. Definitely ruined his shot at the Heisman this year. I think already within one game he's out of it. So It was just complete and utter domination on pretty much every side. If there's one thing they've got to look at, it's probably the secondary, but it's only because they weren't tested. Denard Robinson didn't have time to throw it, and when he did, he made bad decisions.
Right, so admittedly, Alabama looking pretty good. Michigan may be exposed a little bit as overrated. I think we all kind of knew that, but not to take anything away from what Alabama did there. A pretty solid performance.
Oh, yeah, but a lot of smoke and mirrors with Michigan. They did not deserve that ranking.
Yeah, so I think the real test for Alabama coming up here in a couple of weeks against Arkansas, the first of a couple of tests for them, but that'll be a good early season test for them. So Western Kentucky, we'll go ahead and chalk that one up as a win, I guess.
Most definitely.
Not a whole lot to worry about there. Auburn still having to play a real opponent this week. Before we get to the Mississippi State preview, talk about a couple of things that happened in the Auburn-Clemson. I don't want to say disaster.
No.
It wasn't that bad. It was a close game. I think Clemson's a pretty good team. They got some explosive playmakers for sure, but Auburn definitely made some mistakes in this game as well.
They did, especially considering that Sammy Watkins wasn't even in the game.
Right.
You had a wide receiver definitely step up. I think 13 catches in the game.
Yeah,
that was pretty ridiculous.
DeAndre Hopkins definitely made the Auburn secondary look a little foolish.
They did.
On a few occasions. A lot of issues from what I saw relating to the defense struggling with the pace of Clemson. They're having a lot of difficulty getting plays in, getting lined up. I saw a lot of guys looking around when the ball was snapped. It's very difficult to be effective on defense if you're not even set before the play's going.
Also, tackling is a big issue. In the SEC, where running is king, and we have a lot of power running attacks, you have to wrap up and take them to the ground, and Auburn did not do a good job of that. Also, with Clemson, it looks like their big key issue is going to be, can they punch it in the end zone? The problem with a lot of spread teams is once you get inside the 20, can you actually get it in? Clemson didn't look like they had the ability to do that much. That's going to be the real test for them going on in the year.
Yeah, Auburn had some red zone issues as well. It's kind of confusing. when Auburn would get the ball, for the most part, they had a pretty easy time rushing down the field. The offensive line actually looked pretty good. That was one of the things I was worried about. Trey Mason looked pretty good coming in. Ontario McCaleb actually was running inside the tackles somewhat.
I'll tell you what,
surprised by that.
The center was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Being a freshman coming in and taking his first snap.
Yeah, so he looked pretty good. I saw today that Reese Dismukes will be back this week as a starting center for Auburn, and also Jay Prosh, the fullback for Auburn. Unfortunate news for him. His mother passed away yesterday. That was the reason that he had transferred to Auburn, was to be closer to her. She passed away from a brain tumor yesterday, but I did see that Jay Prosh is planning to play the game this weekend. So two important pieces will be there for Auburn. The offensive line, like we said, that was a surprising strength for me. Overall, I thought the offense looked pretty good. Kyle Frazier definitely has some growing to do, made some young mistakes, but kind of segueing into the Mississippi State game here, I think Auburn is going to have some of the same issues they're going to have to struggle with. Mississippi State is also a team that kind of likes to push the pace a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see if they can get those calls in, get people subbed in, and maybe get the tackling improved a little bit in just 1 week.
I think Mississippi State will test them early with the quicker pace, but they actually like to run a little bit of a slower pace. They get to the line in a hurry, but it takes them a while to get the play call in. They like to see what the defense is going to line up in. They're definitely more of a power running game, or have been in the past. Now they actually have a quarterback who can sling the ball around a little bit, but I think they need to key in more on the run this week.
Yeah, I think this may be a little bit of a better matchup for Auburn. You mentioned quarterback Tyler Russell is a little bit more of a drop-back passer, better accuracy, but one of the things Auburn really struggled with last week was Taj Boyd scrambling around and escaping the containment. I'm not so sure that Tyler Russell will be able to do that quite as easily, so that may help out Auburn a little bit. In addition, I think Auburn's offense should still be able to run the ball on Mississippi State. Mississippi State's pass defense probably better than their run defense. Things might not get much easier for Kyle Frazier with cornerbacks Jonathan Banks and Corey Broomfield back there, two guys who I believe were both all SEC last year. So definitely another test for him. But if Auburn can keep running the ball, I think they have a chance to be successful on offense. They got to work out some of those red zone issues. But overall, I kind of feel like Mississippi State's a better matchup player-wise than Clemson was.
I think the real key to the game will be, can Auburn continue to capitalize on what was successful in the Clemson game? And I've got to say, I was extremely impressed when Auburn brought in the I formation and brought in the fullback. They had a lot of success running the ball.
They did.
They were averaging 7 yards a carry when they got into an I formation. Can they continue to make that a bigger part of their play calling and stay in the I formation rather than spreading it out? Because I think they've got a real chance against a young defensive front four to really run the ball against Mississippi State.
Yeah, so always tough to play in front of the cowbells, but Auburn may be catching Mississippi State at a good time with some of these young players. David, what's your one key in this game? If Auburn's going to win this game, what do they have to do?
They have to be more physical than Mississippi State. I think if they try to get cute and fancy and try to use their speed on the edges and do that more than 50% of the time during the game, I think they'll lose. But I think if they can really get gritty and try to run the ball straight at them, I think they've got a good chance of winning this game.
Okay. My key is something we haven't talked about yet, running back Ladarius Perkins from Mississippi State. Andre Ellington at times ran all over the Auburn defense last week. Auburn's got to put a stop to that. In the SEC, it begins and ends with your run defense. If they can contain Ladarius Perkins, that'll make it easier to get pressure on Tyler Russell. Everything just kind of falls into place. So that's my key for this one. Prediction. What do you think?
I think Auburn will go away 1-1. I think they'll have this game.
What do you think, score-wise?
I'm thinking it's going to be probably pretty low scoring. I'm thinking probably 20-17. It'll be a really tight game.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines. Auburn squeaks one by here. I think it'll be another close game, back and forth, but maybe Auburn 27-19, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
A little bit of a strange football score, but my computer simulations have shown it to be correct. So
there you go.
We'll go with that. All right, we got some other SEC games to go through here real quick. Actually, a pretty decent slate of SEC lineup this week featuring the new conference members. Let's start off with one of those games. Georgia had a nice little tune-up against Buffalo last week. They looked all right. Missouri played somebody as well. I don't know who it was, but they put up a lot of points. But Now these two guys got to play each other. First SEC